Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. What you're looking at in front of you is a picture with the Roman Colosseum, and it says Mystery Babylon. Who is it? And as of late, you know, brothers, apostles, elders have been doing videos on Babylon the Great being America, because you have reprobates out there that are now saying that America is not Babylon the Great, that it's the Roman Catholic Church. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. And there's been many different scriptures, many different points, many different websites and stuff, should I say news articles that have been brought out just to prove the point, but the scriptures being the main thing. Because some of them articles and some of that history goes into what the scriptures are saying. And pretty much this, I'll call it this great confusion that's going on right now, is pretty much happening because we're coming to the very end. And being that we're coming to the very end, this truth that is precious is becoming more and more precious, because the way to get to it is becoming even darker and darker to get to. If you're not inspired or led by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and that's the thing. If you're not led by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, that path is going to be dark, and you're not going to be able to find your way in it. So I want to read this real quick, 2 Corinthians 4:3. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. And that's the point. Because at one time, this truth, and it's still going out heavy, hot and heavy. But there was, you had opposition here, opposition there, then they'll stay for a minute, then they'll go. But now it's like it's being attacked from all angles, even from guys within the nation of Israel are attacking the doctrine itself, which is nothing new, because that happened during the time of the Greek Empire and many other empires. You had sellouts that would side with the enemy, with the Edomites, the so-called white man, to come against the nation of Israel and the true men of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So that's all right, because that is their destiny, that is their road, that is what they have to follow. So it says, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, because they don't believe. That's why their mind was blinded. So all of them scriptures that these guys brought out and that were breaking down in the camps, when they were in the camps, they really didn't believe, So eventually the Lord snatched it away from them. And it happens every time. A guy said, well, I'm just going to continue to teach. I'm not part of GMS anymore. I'm not part of this group anymore. I'm just going to go out and teach. And eventually what happens is, slowly but surely, the doctrine and everything changes to where you don't even recognize what these guys are teaching. It's a big conglomeration of confusion from different religions, different sources, different histories, and it's just a whole conglomeration of confusion. All right. It says, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not. Because Esau, the so-called white man, is the God of this world. And he is blinding the minds of these people. That's why he puts out information out there, and he puts out disinformation. And if the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is not guiding you or not guiding us, we could all easily fall into that trap. But Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, which guides us with his guiding light, constantly and daily, to learn, understand, and hold on to this precious truth. It says, least the light of the glorious gospel of Yahweh Shai, which is what we're teaching and preaching, beginning with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them. So pretty much, if this light was to shine unto them, what the Lord said, that he would have to heal them, because they would be converted and he would have to heal them. But there's prophecies of the Lord that have to be fulfilled, and that's why they're not going to get it. So as you see here, Mystery Babylon, who is it? And then you scroll through here, and then you'll see America is Babylon. You have when will Babylon, America, be destroyed? Babylon the Great, the most wicked city in the world, will be destroyed in 1 hour. You know, so you have many different America the whore, mystery, Babylon the Great, God's picture, America. You know, so America is Babylon the Great. And this really wasn't being taught much back in the days, except by the Hebrew Israelites, beginning with King Masha, High Priest Ariah, you know, and the rest of the men that came through the doors of One West. Although you had certain individuals, I'm not sure if they did or not, Herbert Armstrong, I believe his name was. I'm not sure if they actually went into it back in the days. But I know that most people never really touched on America being Babylon the Great. And it wasn't until recently that you see a whole bunch of videos coming out, because the prophets have been out here prophesying, and these other individuals have been grabbing the information that's been being pushed out through the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shai through his men, beginning with the apostles and elders and brothers of Great Millstone, and they're just using it to their benefit. You know, because people of the world today are sick of this Christianity crap that's been taught. So they need new material. So what do? What better thing to do to get new material is to go to the men that the Lord is dealing with and take the sources from them, you know, to be able to woo your congregation, I guess, for lack of better words, because people are getting sick and fed up with religion, because religion is nothing but a trap. And this Christianity is the biggest trap of them all, you know. So I'm just going to go through a few. I got this here. It's called Coven, Old Wild, a traditional Wiccan Coven. You know, this is pretty much they're going into the history of America, even though they're into witchcraft. They're into the Queen of Heaven and all that, but they make good points as far as the founding of America. See, and that's the point. And the point is that the founding of America, because you're gonna have guys, oh, this guy's going to a witchcraft thing, the Wiccan. The point is that they're going into the history of how America came about. It has nothing to do with it being a coven or a Wiccan page. It has everything to do with the origins of America. And if you look hard enough through different sources, you're gonna find the same sources everywhere else. You know, where the truth is being taught as far as the foundation or the beginnings or origins of America today, so-called America. It says some Americans who are poorly educated in history claim that the United States of America was founded in 1776 upon Christian ideals. They're wrong. Democracy and republicanism are historically pagan ideals directly opposed to churchly authoritarianism. Okay, so pretty much the very foundation of the government of this present day America was based upon pagan worship. So it had nothing to do with Christianity, or should I say, the true Christianity, which has nothing to do with Constantine and the rest of them other so-called church fathers of the Nicene Creed and the rest of them other different creeds and councils. Has nothing to do with that. Most of America's traditional patriotic symbols are deeply pagan. After all, the roots of her revolutionary values of equality, cooperation, and liberty grew not from Jerusalem, but from pre-Christian Athens, Demokratia, Greek for rule by the people, and Rome, Res Publica, Latin for the people's thing, as well as the common law and council house of Anglo-Saxons, Iroquois, and other indigenous folk. You know, so pretty much it was all steeped in paganism from its inception or from its birth. And I want to read this real quick in the book of Job, chapter 20, verse 11. And this is dealing with the wicked, you know. Matter of fact, I'm going to read verse 4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short? And who is the wicked? The so-called white man. Which the so-called white men and Edomites are also called the daughter of Babylon. It says that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. So we're dealing with the wicked. and their triumphing and their glorying and their rulership being short or just, for a moment. And when you read Revelation 17, it said that when the seventh head would be ruling, that it would rule for a short time. And you know that it's only been ruling for about the last 400 or 500 years. And to the Most High, that is a short time. That's like a half a day to him. Okay? So let's jump on down to the 11th verse. It says, his bones are full of the sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. So from the inception of America, their beliefs, the whole setup, the whole system, the way people think, the way people operate has all gone back to its youth. And what is its youth? From the inception of America and how it was set up. And it was set up through paganism. It was set up through sorcery. It was set up through witchcraft. It was set up through Masonic symbols and different pagan worships. And that's why when you go throughout, as we're going to read through some of this article, when you go throughout America, all you have are different temples that were dedicated to them, different Greek and Roman gods, and worship to them. And that's really what the whole religion of America is. It really is a pagan religion, which is coupled with the Christian religion, which is nothing more than a pagan religion stemming back to Constantine and the Nicene Creed when they declared Christianity to be the religion of the Roman Empire, which became the so-called Holy Roman Empire. Okay? So it says his bones are full of the sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. All right? So going back here, it says paganism is by definition polytheistic, meaning many gods. Accepting and honoring many gods and goddesses, like nature herself. It encourages diversity, tolerance, and pluralism in creed, color, language, gender, occupation. Now keep in mind that these people here that wrote this, they're saying this as if this is a good thing. But it's not a good thing, But the point is that they're bringing out the fact that when these so-called founding fathers were established, these are the principles that they established America upon. It says, provided everyone respects the whole and does not try to grab the entire pie for himself, paganism is by far the oldest and most universal form of human spirituality. And this is the reason why the flood came in the first place. Because of all the wickedness that was going on back then. Because through paganism, they were doing all kind of stuff, sacrificing their children, having sex with other men's women. It's just being totally wicked and reprobates, So that's why the Lord brought in the flood, because he said that the wickedness of man was great upon the earth, And this America is trying to make the world even more wicked than what it was back in the past. And it is, because the people that are running it, which go back to the Greeks and the Romans, which are nothing but Edomites, when they took over the control of the power of the earth, they made things more wicked than they already were. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go there real quick. This is the book of 1 Maccabee, the 1st chapter, and the 7th verse. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. This is Alexander the Creep. And his servants bare rule every one in his place, which is his generals. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So when the so-called white man took control of the planet, of the earth, that's when wickedness started to increase. And America was the catapult to set up what they call as a new world order. And that's why you have the origins of America steeped deep in paganism, because they're working from the left-hand side, not from the right-hand side. Fundamentalist Christianity, Islam, Judaism, however, is by definition monotheistic. So these religions are monotheistic, but all these religions are off. It says, which monotheistic means one God, insisting on only one God and rejecting all others as false. This relatively new and unnatural notion of faith has spread hand in hand over the last few millennia with other forms of centralized one-way onlyisms, such as governmental monarchy and economic monopoly, because after all, it's much easier to conquer and control your fellow creature when you've got the corner on God's will. And like I said, it's not a bad thing to have one way, because that's what the scripture said. There's only one way, but the way that these devils have manipulated it is they're pushing their agenda towards this new world order, this one ism or one thing, but being really on the left hand side, which is pagan, which is satanic, demonic. It says America's founders weren't just political rebels. Most were also religious, non-conformists, and many, like Thomas Paine and Thomas Jefferson, outright spiritual radicals. They were clear in their conviction. Born of brutal historical experience, the Spanish Inquisition, Henry VIII, the 30 Years' War, the witch trials, etc., that political tyranny and religious intolerance are intimately linked. The motto they adopted for the new United States was "Not in God we trust," which Congress decreed to be official only in the Cold War 1950s as God-fearing capitalist propaganda against the godless communist enemy, but rather e pluribus unum, from many one. It's no accident that this expression of unity through diversity originated with Virgil, a Roman poet and a pagan. So pretty much they're trying to bring in e pluribus unum, out of many one. Now, what happened when you go back to the beginning? When Nimrod tried that back then, it didn't work. There was one language and one speech. They had one idea, one thought, one goal, and what happened? The Most High destroyed that goal by confounding their languages. Therefore, this tower that was built was called Babel, which the word Babel goes back to the Hebrew word Babal, which means confusion. Now, here in America, this has been the greatest conglomeration of confusion, because you have, not only do you have all different religions here, you have different nationalities, you have different ideologies, philosophies. You could do whatever you want, do as thou wilt, be who you want to be, worship who you want to worship. And that's all a big conglomeration of confusion. All right, so let me open up. All right, here we go. Revelation 17:5. Matter of fact, I'm going to start at the first verse. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now, what are these many waters that the great whore, which is America, is sitting upon? Well, let's jump down to the 15th verse. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Because these people were brought here with the promise that they can be free here and do whatever they wanted to do, worship whatever they wanted to do, have sex with whoever they wanted to have sex with, and whatever thought was in their mind, or whatever conception was in their mind that they wanted to achieve here, they could do it. That's what the scriptures also call this place the Golden City. So it says, so going back up, so these waters where the whore sitteth are these people. So these people out here are being manipulated by their lust. And they're coming to America and having sex with America mentally, which is spiritually, because this is what America was set up for. Matter of fact, let me get that scripture I just pulled up. Okay. Let me get. This is in the book of Jeremiah 50 and 37. A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her. And they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. So these mingled people, America is this so-called melting pot, which is known as Babylon the Great. And you read through Jeremiah 50 and you read through Jeremiah 51, where it speaks about Babylon, it's talking about America. And then when you read about Nebuchadnezzar, King Nebuchadnezzar, pretty much by the time that ancient Babylon fell to the Middle Persian Empire, Nebuchadnezzar had already been dead and gone. So it had nothing to do with Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was just that great king at that time that represented the Babylonian Empire. But today you have the so-called America, which their presidents represent the new kings of Babylon, the new Nebuchadnezzars, if you will. Okay, so these mingled people here are doing what? They are drinking of this cup. What is it? Is that the 50th chapter? Let me see if it's 50. It might be 51. Just bear with me 1 second. I believe it might be 51 and 7. Right. Jeremiah 51 and 7. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. So that golden cup was a thing that was appealing. When you see a golden cup, it's shiny, it's bright, it looks beautiful. You want to drink out of that. You say, damn, this is a healthy cup. I can drink out of this. But you don't understand that inside of that cup, which we're going to read, is full of all different types of abominations. And by you drinking it, meaning you're spiritually drinking it. Just like when the Most High told Jeremiah, eat this roll and go and prophesy to the nation of Israel. He didn't mean sit down with a knife and a fork and cut it up and put some sauce on it and eat it, and chew it down. Make sure you chew it real good so it could digest really good in your stomach. No, he told him to eat it, meaning with his mind, And then once he got the food, the spiritual food into his mind, then go out and teach the nation of Israel. So these nations are drinking of this cup, or of this democracy, or this philosophy, of this republicanism, or Christianity, or whatever it is here in the Americas. They're drinking it mentally, and they're having sex with America through their mind, spiritually. Like the scriptures say that. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick before I go back there. This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and I believe it's verse 12, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it 14? Right. Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. And that's what happened. So America is the one that has gone throughout all the ages and gathered together all the different empires, religions, and beliefs and philosophies and ideologies and religions and priesthoods, and combined them all into one. That's why it's called Babylon the Great. And it's also called, if I can find it, it's also called, just bear with me 1 second. I believe I had pulled it up. I guess not. Let me just pull up another tab. That's what the Lord calls it. Nahum 3 and 4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcraft. Now the word mistress represents a female master. So why are they the mistress of witchcraft, or the masters of witchcraft? Because they have taken all these different religions and sorceries and stuff from the ancient worlds and combined them all into one, and came up with the amalgamation that they got today. That's what the Most High calls this place Babylon the Great. Now this is dealing with Nineveh, but Nineveh is also a code name for America. Okay, that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. And America has done that and is still doing that to this very day. This is one of the reasons why the Most High is going to destroy this place. Now going back to Jeremiah 51 and 7, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of a wine, therefore the nations are mad, meaning they're bugged out. They're bugged out. Why? Because they left the religion of their forefathers. The same thing they did when you go back to the time of the Greeks. During the time of the Greeks, they all left the religion of their forefathers, because that was the decree that was given by Antiochus, Epiphanes. First Maccabees 1:41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. What's that? E pluribus unum, out of many one. This one world government, or one world establishment. And everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandments of the king. See? And so they did that, and even Israel left the commandments of their king. So here in America, you have Israelites that are leaving the commandments of their king, meaning of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, to go and conform to America. That's why the majority of Israelites here in America are going to take that chip when it comes, because that's going to be a decree. And everything is pushing hard and heavy towards this cashless society and towards biometrics, which was the final thing on biometrics, to actually put that chip inside of people, whether it be in their hand, whether it be in their forehead, whether it be in their back, in their chest, in their leg, in their toe, in their butt cheek, wherever, because that's the final goal. That's why the Lord calls America Babylon the Great. So it says Babylon is suddenly falling. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to get that point there. So let's go back to this. Now you have a list of different things here I clicked on. I just want to click on a couple of them real quick. It says temples of equality. If the United States of America was founded on as a Christian nation, then why does almost all of our civic architecture or courthouses or capitol buildings or national monuments imitate classical pagan temples? So like I can't go there yet. I want to go back to Revelation 17, because we was reading that. Okay, Revelation 17:2, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. And that's all these different leaders of these countries. They are the ones responsible for what laws are passed in their country, because they're supposed to be the governing bodies of that country. So what do? They make plans and they make agreements with America. America gives them a certain amount of money and gives them certain ideologies for them to push on their people. And that's why you see a thing called gradualism. Because here in America, it was gradual the way they got people just to finally accept homosexuality and transgenderism. It happened over a process of time. So in these countries, it was done gradually. So they would pay these top officials, and they would push to the people what the agenda that they wanted to push on them, and then actually take away their goods from them, in process of time, and their land and their resources. It says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of a fornication. And what's the wine of a fornication? That's democracy. That's Christianity, and all the different philosophies and ideologies that America pushes on the world. And there's many other things you can add in there, but the main one is democracy and this Christianity, which they used America to catapult that thing throughout the four corners. And that democracy is demonic, and that's why they go to a specific country, and they don't accept it. What do? They bomb them, or they create some type of war to where the people of that land are subjected to accept whatever means or solution to end that particular war or those wars that are in their country. And trust and believe that the solution is not beneficial to the people. It's beneficial to the international bankers, the wicked elite. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of a fornication. Yeah, because they really believe in this bullshit that they're into, And they really you see goddamn Moabite come over here to America, born in China, don't speak a lick of English, come over here to America, all of a sudden he's an American. He's built on new fundamental things, and his children, when they're born, they go to the school and college and try to speak just like the white man, So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. This wilderness being America, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. Now this woman represented America, or represents America, And the scarlet-colored beast is the beast. As we read in the book of Revelation 12, Revelation 13, and other books in Revelation, it's the dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, which represents the empire, all the different empires of Esau that ruled on the planet Earth, and also it represents these European nations that are so what I'm looking for, that are confederate with the beast. It says full of names of blasphemy, because they say that they're the Christians, they say that they're the people of the Lord and all of that, and they're not. And then many other things that fall under names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, which goes back to that beast. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color. And just as a side note, Apostle Gabar just did a lesson, and Apostle Tar did a lesson also on America being Babylon the Great through the trafficking, and the goods that are sold here from other countries. And Apostle Gabar did a lesson on the Statue of Liberty and how it goes back to a hermaphrodite God. Is really not even a woman. It's a half man, half woman, which is suitable. But when they first were building that statue, they wanted to paint the statue red and purple. But what happened was, seeing that it's out there in those waters, the water, there was, I guess at that time they didn't have the right paint to be able to paint it, to keep it from peeling or getting messed up. So they left it all copper. That's why it's green today, because copper, when it's left and oxidizes, it turns green, because the copper is like a brownish color. But then when it oxidizes and all the different elements hit it, it turns green. Okay, that's just a side note. So it said, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, which means that they were in an opulent position, an opulent state. They were doing good. And at one time America was at the top. That's why the scriptures call it a golden city. It says, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Now this woman looked great. She looked beautiful from the outside. She was dressed down to a T. She had on her jewelry, her necklaces, a pearl necklace and all that. No pun intended. It says, and then she had a golden cup in her hand. So she wasn't drinking out of no plastic cup. She didn't have a plastic sippy cup or a plastic party cup. It says, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication, which the filthiness of her fornication and her abominations are all these different philosophies that are intermingled inside that cup, which is not an actual drink that you drink, but it's actually these actual philosophies, beginning with their democracy, and that's what's happening. And then when you read on down, it says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery. Why? Because this is a mystery. Because back then when the Apostle John wrote this, he did not understand what this woman represented. He did not understand what this great beast, this dragon with the 7 heads and 10 horns and the 10 crowns, he didn't understand what any of that represented, because it wasn't meant for him to understand it at that time. It's meant for us to understand it now. So this Babylon the Great is dealing with America. And this is just another angle, that you could come at it with. And there's many other different angles. You could go the route like the Apostle Tahar did with the merchants, and you could go the route that Apostle Gabar did, with the Lady of Kingdoms and different other the brother Elder Yashawamba and Elder Ariala. They came at it at a different angle. And you have many other different brothers out there that are doing videos on America being Babylon the Great. But the point is that it's a mystery. So either you got it or you don't. And the Lord said, matter of fact, let me get this real quick. This is what the Lord said. Amos 3:7. Surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. So if you're not a prophet of the Lord, if you're not a true prophet of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, you're not going to get this. And no matter what you try to do to push it away or change it, the men of the Lord that have been given the eye salve and that have been sealed from the foundation of the earth are not going to fall for your shenanigans. They're not going to fall for your lies. They're going to go straight forward. So going back to Revelation 17:5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great. And who is this Babylon the Great? This is dealing with America. Now you scroll down to the 18th verse, Revelation 17:18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Now who's reigning over the kings of the earth? America. Because even when it comes down to a policy in the in NATO, which America is a part of NATO, whenever NATO wants to do something, add a member, a European member nation into that, it won't happen unless America gives a final vote on it, because America is the one that's controlling all these different nations around the world. And that's the reason why the wicked elite had sent these criminals over here to the Americas to set up a place where they can launch their new world order, because over there shit was crazy at the time. So they needed a new place to restart or rehash this whole agenda of theirs. So it says, so going back up, it says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. The mother of harlots, because pretty much they worship all these different gods and deities. And when you go back, was it here? I'm not sure if it was this one. It's one of these. Let me see if I read this one here. 5 points of fellowship. If the United States of America was founded as a Christian nation, then why do we have a pagan pentagram spangled banner? Because the 5-pointed star that nowadays represents the USA is an ancient symbol for the whole harmonious human being, which Masons transmitted from the oldest occult tradition into the iconography of freedom. You know, because pretty much what it is, it affords you the right to worship whatever God or whatever religion you want. All right. And there was another one that kind of went into it. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one it is. But this one is Temples of Equality. I already read this part. It imitates classical pagan temples. These temples that they have. And when you go into the history of it, that's what it goes back to. All right. Those different ancient temples to these different Greek and Roman gods, because the founders, as Enlightenment era thinkers, saw the sacred values of democracy and republicanism as pre-Christian inventions of Greek and Roman cultures, which they considered superior to the culture of the church-dominated Dark Ages. Why? Because they're Edomites. Their vibe does not come off of the Bible. But why do they use the Bible? Because there's power in that book. That's why they use the Bible, because there's power in that book, and they know that they can control the masses, that they can control their way of thinking. It says, to Enlightenment influence Americans. The architecture of the Gothic cathedral was an oppressive reminder of the suffering and tyranny imposed on the old world by state-sponsored Christianity. Still fresh in their historical memory was the 30-year wars of the 1600s, when Europe's Protestant and Catholic powers decimated each other in the bloodiest and most destructive war even fought until the 20th century. Also deeply influential were Enlightenment scholars, notably historian Edward Gibbon, Decline of the Fall of the Roman Empire, who attributed the collapse of the classical world to the rise of Christianity. And so let me see. Today, most of America's courthouses, capitals, patriotic monuments, and even banks are built in the neoclassical style. Their marble columns, porticos, friezes, and so on, copied from the shrines and temples of pagan gods and goddesses. That's what the Most High said, as we read earlier in the book of Job. I don't know if I still have it up. Job 20:11. His bones are full of the sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. And this whole thing stems back to the ancient Roman Empire. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, in Isaiah 47, it kind of mentioned that. Yep, this is the book of Isaiah 47:12. Stand now with thine enchantments and with thy multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. See, from thy youth meaning what? Meaning from your inception, when you were born. You know, when you were first set up. You know. So it says, stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. See if you can stand. See if you'll be able to withstand the destruction that the Lord is going to bring upon you. Call on them different deities. Do those different rituals. See if that's going to save you from the hell that's going to come upon you. Matter of fact, back in Jeremiah 51:8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed? Because America is not going to be healed. Because America has already been destined to be destroyed. Babylon the Great has already been destined to be destroyed. Ancient Babylon over there in Iraq is not inhabited. Is inhabited to this very day. You know? And they're not controlling and ruling over all the people of the earth. The Vatican is not ruling and controlling over all the people of the earth. Because you have Muslims, or you have different Buddhists and different other people of different religions that are not giving heed to the Roman Catholic dogma. But everybody, if you look at all these different nations, they're all over here in America, you know, feeding off of this Babylonian juice that America has been test tube feeding them and breastfeeding them with, you know. So going back, where were we? All right, that was it right there. Because they're not going to be able to prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels, because they're trying to come together to establish this new world order, but they're seeing there's a lot of friction still going on. So that's why they're sending these flunkies to try to destroy this word. And you know, you had guys that fell out of Great Millstone. I doubt if they approach any of them guys to pay them off, but you never know how low a devil would stoop. You know, so you never know. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Why? Because destruction is coming upon you, and you're not going to be able to put it off. It says, behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it, because America is going to be totally destroyed and wiped away. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. And this is the same thing that is said in the book of Revelation. They're going to stand afar off bewailing, because they're not going to be able to sell their merchandise anymore. So Isaiah 47 and Revelation 18 go hand in hand. Revelation 18 and 17, they go hand in hand with Isaiah 47, Isaiah 13 as being Babylon the Great, which is America. Let's see if I have anything else. No, pretty much that's the point. Now you had the 5 points of fellowship, goddess of liberty, you know, which Apostle Gabar went into. If the United States of America was founded as a Christian nation, then why is liberty always depicted as a pagan goddess? Because liberty inspires people with such passionate love of her that they will sacrifice their wealth, their safety, even their lives to invoke her into being. And that's what's happened. They've invoked these different deities, you know, which are not even deities, because the scriptures say that the gods of the nations are just idols, you know. And this is what they've impressed upon these people of these different nations that have their own religions. They'll have their own religions, but they'll still incorporate this American nonsense into their everyday life. Lady Liberty isn't just an abstract personification of freedom. Early American art makes clear that she is the Greek Athena and the Roman Minerva, goddess of wisdom, philosophy, and civic virtue, the patroness of good government in Athens and Rome. And when you go back, as Apostle Gabar went into, it also represents a hermaphrodite or an androgynous a goddess, you know, or god, you know, which is very fitting for America. Okay, so that's pretty much it on that. I mean, like I said, there's a lot more we can go into. But I'm just going to close out. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, so I'll go here. Revelation 18 and 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. There's no other country on the planet that this has happened to. Everybody's being made rich off of here. How was China made rich? Because they sent their exports over here to America and they were sold here. How was the other different nations made rich? By sending their goods here to the Americas. You know, let me jump down. Ninth verse. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. So it's only going to take 1 hour for this place to be destroyed by thermonuclear destruction. Trying to see if I still have this other precept. Oh yeah, you know what? Let me read this. And ancient Babylon was not destroyed by fire. Ancient Babylon was not destroyed by missiles. Ancient Babylon fell to Darius and Cyrus. Okay? Because Darius was working for Cyrus, the king of the Persian Empire. Daniel 5:30. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. And when this guy fell, Belshazzar fell, there wasn't a big war that happened. You know, so that's not dealing with ancient Babylon. This Babylon the Great that the scriptures speak about. It speaks about a great destruction that's going to happen to it. That she's going to be burnt. That there's going to be a devastating destruction upon it. That is never going to ever be able to even be found again. You know, you're not even going to be able to know where one city started and ended, or where the other city began. You know. And you still have ruins, and you still have homes and different architecture and stuff back then, ancient Iraq and Babylon over there. You know, so this is dealing with America being destroyed. So the ancient Babylon was not destroyed by a fire. Okay. I'll read this real quick. Job 20:4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon the earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach unto the clouds, yet shall he perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, Where is he? Why? Because they're going to be diminished, and they're never going to rise up again to rule. He shall fly away as a dream, and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night. The eye also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place any more behold him. His children shall seek to please the poor, and his hands shall restore their goods. His bones are full of the sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. And they're going to be destroyed. All right. So with that, I had showed you different, America is Babylon the Great. If you can't see it, then the Lord has not opened up your mind, to see it. So with that, I want to say shalom.